The unthinkable just happened. NASA's safety panel publicly slammed SpaceX's Starship HLS, warning it could delay moon landings by years. And here's the kicker. When a fan suggested ditching SpaceX for Blue Origin, the space community erupted. Is this NASA losing faith in Musk's moon rocket? With orbital refueling still unproven and China racing ahead, the 2027 deadline looks increasingly impossible. Could Blue Origin actually steal SpaceX's lunar contract? Let's dive right in. Here's what's really happening behind closed doors at NASA headquarters. The Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, the agency's independent watchdog that doesn't sugarcoat anything, just delivered a gut punch to the entire Artemis program. Their message? Starship HLS could be years behind schedule, potentially pushing America's return to the moon into the 2030s. This isn't typical bureaucratic caution. This is NASA's own safety experts publicly questioning whether SpaceX can deliver on its promises. The problem is surprisingly straightforward, yet brutally difficult to solve. Starship is physically too large to carry all the propellant it needs to reach the moon in a single launch. It's like building a car that can't hold enough gas to complete its intended route. SpaceX's solution sounds simple on paper. Launch additional Starship tankers to refuel the lunar lander in orbit. But the execution is anything but simple. We're talking about transferring cryogenically cooled propellant between two spacecraft traveling at 17,500 miles per hour in the vacuum of space. The fuel is so cold it approaches absolute zero. One miscalculation during docking, one leak, one pressure fluctuation, and the entire mission fails. The concerning part? SpaceX hasn't successfully demonstrated this technology yet. During Starship Flight 3, they managed an internal propellant transfer within the same vehicle. That's fundamentally different from ship-to-ship refueling. The real test isn't scheduled until 2026, giving them roughly 1 year to perfect a technique that's never been accomplished in space exploration history before the 2027 Artemis 3 deadline. NASA's report also highlights another critical issue. SpaceX is juggling priorities. The company is simultaneously developing the standard Starship program for commercial and Mars missions while trying to meet NASA's specific human landing system requirements. Resources are stretched thin, and progress on HLS has slowed as a result. Elon Musk's response to NASA's concerns tells us a lot about the current tension. When the New York Times published an article questioning Starship's progress, Musk dismissed it entirely. It's not worth lining a parrot cage with, the New York Times, let alone reading it. Then came the moment that ignited a firestorm across social media. A NASA enthusiast suggested the agency should abandon SpaceX's lander and switch to Blue Origin's design for Artemis 3. Musk's reply was just 3 letters. LOL. That casual dismissal divided the space community instantly. Was Musk displaying justified confidence in SpaceX's capabilities? Or was this arrogance masking deeper problems? This controversy has revealed 3 distinct perspectives, each backed by compelling arguments. The first group sides firmly with NASA's concerns. These analysts point to concrete technical realities. SpaceX has conducted multiple Starship test flights, and while each has advanced the program, none have completed a full mission profile successfully. Several ended in explosions or controlled destruction. The delays in rolling out Starship Block 3, the version intended for orbital refueling demonstrations, have pushed critical testing further into 2026. This camp emphasizes that NASA's cautious approach stems from hard-earned lessons. The Challenger disaster in 1986 and Columbia disaster in 2003 both resulted from management pressure overriding engineering concerns. 7 astronauts died in each tragedy. NASA's current safety standards exist because of those losses. Rushing Starship to meet a politically motivated deadline could repeat history's darkest chapters. They also note that SpaceX hasn't demonstrated the complete mission architecture. Orbital refueling requires precision docking, cryogenic fuel management, and multiple successful transfers, potentially a dozen or more, within a compressed time frame. Expecting SpaceX to master this by mid-2027, while simultaneously developing Starship for other missions, seems unrealistic given current progress. The second camp believes SpaceX will deliver, and they have history on their side. When SpaceX started developing Falcon 1, the first 3 launches failed. Industry experts declared the company would never succeed. The 4th launch worked, and Falcon 9 eventually became the most reliable rocket in operation. Today, SpaceX lands and reuses first-stage boosters routinely, something NASA and other space agencies claimed was impossible or economically unfeasible. These supporters see Starship's current challenges as typical growing pains for revolutionary technology. They point to recent progress: successful static fire tests, rapid construction at Starbase, and SpaceX's track record of iterating quickly through failures to reach success. The next 6 months of Starship flights will be crucial, with Block 3 tests in 2026 expected to demonstrate the technologies needed for Artemis missions. This group also argues that SpaceX operates under a fundamentally different innovation model than traditional government contractors. While companies like Boeing take decades and billions of dollars to develop new systems, SpaceX builds, tests, fails, learns, and rebuilds in months. Judging them by conventional aerospace timelines misses the point of their approach. The third perspective takes a step back to question the entire Artemis architecture. These observers argue that the program has become over-engineered and unsustainably expensive, with problems extending far beyond Starship. NASA has invested $24 billion in the Space Launch System over the past decade. Each SLS launch costs approximately $4.1 billion. The rocket is partially expendable, meaning much of it cannot be reused. After 2 or 3 Artemis missions, the program's costs could exceed $50 billion. Starship, in contrast, is designed for full reusability. While development has been expensive, the long-term cost per launch could be orders of magnitude lower than SLS. This creates an awkward situation. NASA is funding 2 lunar transportation systems simultaneously, one vastly more expensive than the other. Political realities explain this contradiction. SLS employs thousands of workers across multiple states, with manufacturing and testing facilities strategically located in key congressional districts. Canceling the program would trigger massive job losses and political backlash. No administration or Congress wants to bear that responsibility, so SLS continues despite its costs. However, cracks are appearing in this political armor. Recent reports suggest a potential compromise between Congress and the Trump administration to cut SLS's expensive exploration upper stage and a second mobile launch tower. These changes could save NASA over $1 billion annually, freeing resources that might accelerate other Artemis components, including support for Starship development. This political shift, if it happens, would signal that even SLS's staunchest defenders recognize the program's limitations. It might also reduce pressure on Starship's timeline by acknowledging that the entire Artemis schedule needs adjustment. Beyond Starship and SLS, another Artemis component is struggling: the Lunar Gateway Space Station. Originally planned to begin launching modules in 2025, it's now delayed indefinitely. The power and propulsion element and habitation modules have encountered serious technical issues: mass overruns, control system problems, and defects in critical onboard network chips. The Gateway was intended to serve as a staging point for lunar surface missions and a symbol of international cooperation. But its role has become increasingly questionable. The station's planned operational lifespan is just 15 years, surprisingly short for infrastructure meant to enable decades of lunar exploration and eventual Mars missions. Early in 2025, the Trump administration attempted to cancel the Gateway entirely, citing budget constraints and questionable utility. Artemis 2 is scheduled for February next year. 4 astronauts will fly around the moon in an Orion capsule, traveling farther than any human since Apollo 17. That mission will succeed because it relies on proven technology. SLS and Orion have flown before on Artemis 1. Artemis 3 is entirely different. It requires Starship HLS to land humans on the lunar surface. That requires orbital refueling. That requires technology that doesn't exist yet. The upcoming Starship test flights will determine the program's fate. If SpaceX successfully demonstrates Block 3 capabilities, advances refueling technology, and shows steady progress toward mission readiness, they'll silence critics and validate NASA's investment. If tests continue encountering problems, delays extend further, and 2027 becomes clearly impossible, NASA will face uncomfortable decisions about the program's future. This isn't just about one company or one contract. It's about whether America can still execute ambitious technological projects, whether private industry can truly replace traditional government programs, whether the bold promises of the commercial space era can withstand the harsh realities of engineering and physics. Here's the bottom line. The next 6 months of Starship testing will decide whether America returns to the moon in this decade or watches China get there first. If SpaceX nails orbital refueling, they'll revolutionize space travel forever. If they can't, NASA will face the hardest decision in Artemis history: stick with innovation or pivot to safety. This isn't just about one rocket or one mission. This is about whether bold vision can overcome brutal physics, whether private companies can deliver what governments couldn't, whether America still has what it takes to lead humanity into space. Artemis 2 launches in February. Starship Block 3 tests are coming soon. The decisions being made right now will echo for generations. We're living through the moment that defines the next era of space exploration. So what's your take? Can SpaceX prove the doubters wrong, or should NASA go with Blue Origin's safer approach? Drop your prediction in the comments. I read every single one. This is Space Hub, where we break down the real story behind space's biggest moments. If you want expert analysis on what's actually happening in the new space race, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if this video gave you a new perspective, smash that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more space fans like you. The moon is waiting, history is watching, and we'll be here covering every twist in this incredible journey.